Okay, who remembers what the gospel was last week?
Sounds like a confirmation question.
Jesus started his ministry.
Okay, by doing what?
Baptized.
He was baptized, but then last week,
Calling the disciples?
John, yes. John was, remember he was baptized. The part we didn't hear yet, because we're going to hear it in Lent, was he went into the wilderness for 40 days. And then we don't know how long it was after that. But when John was arrested, he left home, moved to a new town, and called the first 4 disciples, who were Andrew, Peter, James, and John. Okay, you guys are doing good. All right. So, today we have Jesus going up to a mountain and preaching to crowds. So, okay, we went from 4 disciples to crowds. All right, well, that's our lectionary because it skipped a couple of verses. So I just want to read those verses to you so you'll know how we got from last week to this week. Jesus went throughout Galilee, teaching in their synagogues, proclaiming the good news of the kingdom and healing every disease and sickness among the people. News about him spread all over Syria, and people brought to him all who were ill with various diseases, those suffering severe pain, the demon-possessed, those having seizures, the paralyzed, and Jesus healed them. Large crowds from Galilee, the Decapolis, Jerusalem, Judea, and the region across the Jordan followed him. Jesus has been busy, very busy. And it wasn't just preaching and teaching. He'd been healing people, setting them free, performing miracles, changing their lives in dramatic ways. Ways that from that point on, they would always think about before Jesus and after Jesus. There was a turning point when they got to know God in a whole new way, when they become a different person at their very core, when the meaning and the purpose of life changed, became clear, when the call on their life had changed. People had experienced the amazing love and awesome power of Jesus, and after that experience, they would never, ever be the same. So that's the backdrop for the words from Jesus that we hear today. God in Jesus had been meeting people in their sickness, in their pain, in their fear, in their hopelessness, in their despair, and he had blessed them. And now Jesus was telling them and their family members and friends and neighbors what God had done and what God would continue to do. Now I know what happened the times in which God has healed me. One time it was from migraines. I couldn't help but tell people. And still, if I meet somebody with migraines, I tell them about how God healed me. So I'm sure that there were many people there that day who were suffering and who had been brought by those who had already experienced Jesus' healing. And so Jesus speaks to them and he says, "Blessed are the poor in spirit. Blessed are those who mourn." In other words, what Jesus was saying back then to those people, and what he is saying right here to us today, is that if you're poor in spirit, if you're depressed, if your spirit lacks energy and vitality and life, then you've come to the right place. You can step right now from the emptiness of your current reality, from the futility of this world, from the meaningless of this earthly kingdom. You can step into the fullness of a new reality, a different world, a heavenly kingdom. If you're mourning, if you're grieving, if your heart has been broken, you've come to the right place. You can step out of that mourning and that grief, and you can feel the comfort of God's touch mending your heart. Or maybe the emptiness of lack, the need wasn't or isn't depression or grief. Maybe it's another kind of emptiness, a hunger and thirst for righteousness or justice. And Jesus was saying to them back then and is saying to us today, if you've been oppressed, if you've been treated unjustly, if you haven't received what you should have, food, shelter, education, a livable wage, then be assured that God knows what you need and will give you the strength and the courage to survive until those needs are met. And Jesus goes on to talk about another kind of need. The need to be healed from hurts inflicted by others. I'm talking about the blessed are those who show mercy. Because if you think about it, who needs to show mercy? It's people who have been hurt, right? So those people who have been hurt, who have been wronged, those are the ones who Jesus is saying are blessed if they show mercy, because as we respond with mercy and love and compassion, then we open up the channels to receive that and have that from God. So some of what Jesus is saying is, if you have a need in your life, if you're depressed, if you're grieving, if you've been hurt, if you've suffered oppression, God knows your need, and God can fill it. Now that may not mean that the healing or the injustice or the oppression or the wrongful treatment will stop immediately. Sometimes there is a process. But it does mean that God is walking with you and will give you whatever you need to endure. So Jesus begins by addressing those who have come with some sort of emptiness inside. Maybe you're depressed. Maybe you're grieving. Maybe someone has hurt you or wronged you. Maybe you've been treated unfairly, unjustly. And if that's the case, I'm here to tell you that there is hope. I myself have experienced depression and grief. I myself have been hurt and have been treated wrongly. But God has met me in each and every one of those situations and has blessed me with love and grace and mercy and healing. And God can meet you and bless you too. But what if you are here today and you don't have an emptiness or a hurt or a need inside? What if you are come here and you're feeling great and you're already feeling blessed? Then are you blessed? And I think the answer to that is it depends. Let me explain. There's a key verse in these Beatitudes that addresses that question. And it's the verse that says, "Blessed are the meek." Now, when you hear that somebody's meek, what do you think of?
Timid.
Quiet, shy, timid.
Little.
What?
Small. Little.
Small. Okay. All right. So I was at a Bible study this week. I got to tell you, it's great to go to Bible study because you learn some amazing things. And what I learned this week was that the word for meek in Greek was used to describe the goal for training horses. All right, I'll explain this. So, when you train a wild horse, you need to break the horse, the spirit of the horse, and then you need to train that horse to be submissive and obedient to the rider. You want that horse to be able to obey every single command of the rider without hesitation. And to be so in touch with the rider's intention that the horse and the rider function as a single unit. Horses in that place and time were almost always used for battle. So think how important it is that the horse respond to the rider's every intention. Because it's a matter of life and death. You need those horses that will be in tune with what the rider wants and needs. So the more submissive and obedient the horse, the better chance there was of winning the battle for one's king and one's kingdom. And that's what's key for those of us who are here today who are not feeling particularly empty or depressed or grieving. If we're one of those things, if we're going to be open and receptive and desirous of what Jesus has to offer, we need to be that way, even if we're feeling like blessed materially. If we want to receive all that Jesus has to offer, then we need to think about that image of being the horse and having God be our rider, because we want to be submissive and obedient and respond to God's every direction. To be meek means to submit our wills to God. And what that means is that we have to be willing to put everything on the line. We have to be willing to give up everything else in our lives. Our family members, our friends, our homes, our jobs, our bank accounts, our comfort, our power, our privilege. If that's what God asks of us. We have to be like that wild horse and allow God to break us and to train us so that we can be submissive and obedient and responsive to God and to God alone. Just think of God guiding you and directing your every step. It's like being so in tune with God that we respond to every one of God's intentions. And when we realize that we are moving in unity with God, with the Holy Spirit, then we can move in trust and faith and confidence and courage into battles where we're fighting for justice and for peace, where we risk being reviled and persecuted and hated. So if you're here and you are not in a place of emptiness but a place of fullness, then the call to you is to submit yourself to God and allow God to train you through prayer, through Bible study, to be meek. To train you so that you see God everywhere. And you can come every Sunday here and share some God sighting that you've had. That's what it means to be in tune with what God is doing. We need to be obedient and responsive to God's every move and God's every word, so that together we, you and God, me and God, all of us and God might accomplish God's will. Accomplish God's will in us and for us and through us. So that's the other kind of blessing. The first is if you come with emptiness and God can fill it. And the second is if you come and you're already pretty full, but then God is calling us to submit. The people who came to Jesus that day did not come just for information. They came for transformation. I hope you too are here for transformation, because that's what being a disciple is all about. Jesus comes here to us today. He comes here to touch you, no matter what is going on in your life situation, no matter how you're feeling, no matter what you're thinking. Whether you come here today empty or full, in sorrow or in joy, filled with despair or hope, hurting or healed, there are blessings here for you. Those blessings are ours when we come to Jesus for healing. Those blessings are ours when we come to God to be broken and then show up for Bible study and prayer to be trained. Those blessings are ours when we open ourselves to the power of the Spirit and invite that Spirit to enlighten our minds, create new hearts in us, and restore right spirits within us. Jesus comes to us today to touch us, to heal us, and to set us free. Jesus comes to break us and train us to work as one with him. Jesus comes to us today as he came to others over 2,000 years ago. He comes to heal. He comes to save. He comes to set you free. Whether you already feel that you're kneeling before Jesus in need, or whether you come here today and now kneel down to submit to him, Jesus comes to touch you, to heal you, and to raise you up to a new and transformed life, so that nothing will ever, ever be the same. Jesus has come right here and right now to say, blessed are you. Blessed each one of you. Rejoice and be glad. Before we end the live stream portion of our worship, I want to especially thank those of you who are out there in cyberspace who have been worshiping with us. I hope you'll join us again. In the meantime, if you would like to learn more about our ministry, you can go to our website at salembridgeport.org. And if you'd like to talk, or if you would like prayer, you can contact me through our website or our Facebook page. And as we close this live stream portion of our service, I invite you to recommit to reconciliation and a blessing. God, you have called us into being and joined us to one another through love.
Creating, redeeming, sustaining God, we invite you to transform our minds and hearts, that we might come to love, appreciate, and value the beautiful diversity you have created within the human family. Show us the beauty in every skin color, from the whiteness of snow to the blackness of ebony. Help us hear music in the various dialects and accents around us. Melt our hearts wherever we see love and affection expressed, no matter what the gender. Let the fragrant aromas of different ethnicities whet our appetites for cultural delights. Our lives are but the breath, but our breaths are drawn from your divine Spirit. You have created us as walking paradises, as divine dust. Transform our spirits, that we might see you in every human face.
May God, who has planted these desires in your heart, delight in fulfilling each and every one.
Amen.